potential impact on a different market segment, and that is the creation of small businesses. This will immediately ensure a 2.7 billion rand investment in this part of our economy. To be noted is that our own development finance institution, the DBSA, and the German Development Finance Institution, KfW, have already established access to affordable funds in support of participation of small businesses in the green economy and therefore the small renewable energy program. We would like to thank them for working with us as government and for their willingness in growing this very important market. 2, I've requested the IPP office to ensure a more equal distribution of the benefits to the communities, specifically the distribution of the dividends, by analyzing as well as creating a better and more efficient structure for this purpose. 3, to sign the 2 projects under the coal IPP program, as well as the 19 projects procured under the Renewable Energy Expedited Bid window, which will be announced in due course. Together, this will achieve a further 103 billion rand of investment into our economy with substantial foreign direct investment. 4, to facilitate the initiatives towards the development of a gas market while exploring both indigenous and imported resources, as well as the related investment in infrastructure, particularly in collaboration with our neighboring countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. I personally will lead a delegation to meet my counterparts in those countries to enhance the relationships for the mutual benefit of our people and for our region. I've also tasked the IPP office to take a lead in facilitating these initiatives as a matter of extreme urgency in order to ensure that our country speaks with one voice and prevent the confusion in the market and in the region. 5, exploring optimal resource allocation and utilization in the energy-water nexus through knowledge sharing and joint initiatives in our role as the chair of BRICS and SADC energy initiatives for the 2018-19 financial year. As I conclude, I would like to thank our private sector partners for supporting South Africa with its economic transformation agenda. It shows the success of working together on issues of national importance. As we continue with the implementation of the other projects, I would like to see similar economic transformation achieved as demonstrated in bid window 3.5 and 4. It should be noted that the total investment referred to above is from the private sector, which indicates investor confidence in the South African energy sector as well as the economy of our country. I've looked at the rollout of these programs that we have just announced, and I can assure you that connection to the grid will, in accordance with the projected demand going forward, taking into account the decommissioning of old power plants. Furthermore, the price in real terms in terms of these IPP programs remains constant over the period of the contracts. That is, only CPI and below increases will be allowed, which gives certainty to the consumer. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we'll start with Pretoria. Mary, I had indicated that we will only take questions from the members of the media. Can the person that you allow to introduce themselves and which media house they come from? Thank you.
Okay, Sis Pumla, please introduce yourself and your media house. 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, Minister John Fraser from the Cape Messenger. First of all, congratulations on starting this briefing under Ramaphosa time and not under Zuma time. Really appreciate it. We're all busy people. Secondly, I noticed no trace of apology in your announcement today. The government has messed around the private sector on these projects for a long while. Some people have had to withdraw. It has been a total mess. There have been chaotic messages. Honestly, it is not something to be proud of. Are you ashamed of it? And in welcoming today's announcement, are you at last able to put the final nail in the coffin of the new nuclear build program? Thank you.
Terence Creamer, Engineering News. Just on the PPA terms for these 27 projects, at one stage government sent out a signal that there would be a cap of 72 cents. I imagine that no longer applies, but can you just confirm that, as well as what the average tariff will be for the wind projects, the solar PV projects, and the one CSP project? And if you could also secondly comment on the tariff effect of these projects and when we'll start seeing that tariff effect taking place. It can't take place this year, obviously, and they won't be built in time anyway. But can we expect in the next multi-year price determination some tariff uptick, and can you give us an indication of what it could be in the tariff? Could you thirdly give us the time frame for the completion of the coal RPP, the expedited and the smalls, as you announced today that they would all be now signed? So just give us the time frame for that. And then also on when you would expect, this is fourthly, when you'd expect to go out to market on the gas to power program, and how you expect the IPP office to lead that process. And lastly, if you could just give us an update on the RRP process, given that the Gazette notice that was announced by your predecessor has never come out from what I can see, and that I see you wearing the NDP badge proudly. The NDP energy document that came out clearly says that we need a new updated version of that RRP that is peer-reviewed and that is aligned to the new technology costs. Thank you.
Antoinette Slabbert from MoneyWeb. Minister, I think many people will welcome this announcement, but forgive me if I remind you that previous energy ministers, and there were quite a few, made the same announcement and then Eskom just didn't sign. And I don't see anybody from Eskom next to you. I don't see anybody from Public Enterprises next to you. Can you please enlighten us why there is nobody from the other side of this equation with you today, especially because if ever there was a time that Eskom had reason not to sign, it would be now, because their balance sheet is in such a state that one would question whether the directors would be justified in signing these agreements at the moment, whether the balance sheet and the going concern status will be able to carry these agreements. And then in the same vein, what would be the mechanism for better cooperation between Eskom and Public Enterprises and the IPP office and the Department of Energy going forward to prevent the same situation reoccurring?
Over to you, EDG.
Thank you. Minister, would you like to take Pretoria's question, because there are quite a few? Then we'll come to Cape Town. Thank you.
Want me to answer now?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
sure.
Sorry.
Let me start with the big question. This agreement is going to be signed next week, Tuesday. Why delayed so long? I'm not looking into the past, I'm looking to the future. I was appointed by the President, and one of the mandates is to make sure that we must be action-oriented. There is no reason why this project has been delaying so long, but I'm not into asking why. I want to find solutions, and that is the solution that we are bringing. As you can see, the benefits to the South African economy is immense with the implementation of these projects. On the issue of Eskom, DPE, and so on Tuesday, all the stakeholders to this agreement will be there on signing it. The other issues of a technical nature, I'll ask Karen to deal with the issue of tariffs. On the issue of the nail in the coffin, today it is about IPPs. This is day 10 of being appointed as a Minister of Energy. We're going to be coming in the next 100 days on a program of action on the things that are required to turn around this economy and to put energy at the center and as a catalyst for that reigniting of the economic growth.
Thank you, Minister. And Terence, the average price for Bidwindo 4 is 86 cents in 2017 base date. Yes, the 77 cents, as was discussed, I think it was October of last year, couldn't work because it would have had a massive impact on the rules of our procurement process, and therefore the department has decided not to go that route and risk the procurement of IPPs in the market. The time frame to coal for the coal program is 48 months from signing. That's the shortest time of the build of coal and the connection. Now, coal still has to get to financial close, and Minister has indicated that we would like to see whether it is possible to improve on the economic transformation in all of these projects. Similarly, it will be for expedited. Expedited has to be announced, and then after that we need to sit down with the preferred bidders and also see whether they will be accommodating us as to the transformation agenda. I mean, in the between those 3.5 and 4, what we have done is we have now black participation at the project level, but also at the construction and the operations level, which means our own people get the experience, and they are then they are being prepared for being able to do these things on their own. And I think that was the original idea, was to bring in foreign direct investment and foreigners to come and teach us as to this new technology, and then allow us to grow into the space so that we can also participate in other countries. So expedited will take, I think, another 6-7 months before we will sign. On the market gas, I really don't think we will see anything to the market, i.e. an RFQ, before first quarter of next year. And the reason why I'm saying that is there are still a few outstanding building blocks that we need to do. As Minister has indicated, we have got the LNG import, Richards Bay and Kuga as identified before. However, there is also a great opportunity to look at our neighbours and see, isn't there a way that we can work together and get some of their gas obviously to benefit them, but also to benefit us. And for that, Minister has agreed to lead this delegation going to see our neighbours, so that we try and mend our relationships and try and speak with one voice, and then from there work together as to how this can happen. I really think that's a massive step forward. As to the balance sheet of Eskom, these things are not on the balance sheet of Eskom. Our regulatory framework is very clear. IPPs or projects procured under Section 34 of the Electricity Regulation Act have got, after concurrence, the minister makes a determination and NERSA concur to that determination. After that, it is a pass-through to the consumer, and that is the reason why our procurement process is so important. We have to have a competitive process which will then ensure the best price to the consumer, and therefore tweaking our procurement process will have definitely an impact on whether our procurement process is seen as a fair and open and transparent process. So I need to stress this is not an Eskom balance sheet issue. I think you need to just go and read the regulatory framework documents, and then you will be very clear as to how all of this work together. Now, on the if you know what has happened in the MYPD and also the decision from NERSA on the 1819 request from Eskom, you will see that we do have, as the IPP programs, a saving on the renewable as well as the peaker plants. And in fact, it's a big saving. That obviously will carry forward into the next year, 2018-19, and therefore it will carry forward to the years to come. What we have done is a calculation as to when would these programs start connecting to the grid. Our first indication was end of 2019, but with the delays, this will go well into 2020 before the first project will connect to the grid. And therefore, only beyond 2020, these projects will ramp up. Now, if you think about expedited coal, etc., they will ramp up, and we will do that and be very transparent as to how these projects will connect to the grid. And obviously, we will talk to Eskom, to the department, to determine what the new demand projections of the IRP is, and then work accordingly. So I think we have got no plan to make it difficult for Eskom, and we've got absolutely no plan to just pump in electricity into the grid without being a responsible group of people. Thank you.
On the issue of the IRP, it's part of my next program of action that will be looked at in conjunction with the energy plan. So in the next week or so, we'll be addressing you on those particular matters.
Thanks, Minister and Karen. We will be taking questions. The same principle, introduce your media house. I think, Paul, you were the first one, and then there's Galata at the back, and then there's you.
Good afternoon, Minister. Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. I just need to pin you down a little bit. Will Eskom actually sign these agreements? Are you expecting them next Tuesday? And have you and your counterpart, Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan, got some agreement, whether it's a memorandum of understanding or something like that, that agrees that Eskom must sign, or whatever the understanding is? Thank you.
Good day. My name is Lukanya Talat. I'm from the SABC. Minister, quickly just if you can talk to us about timeframes in terms of construction, in terms of monies being released. When can people say, okay, on this date we will have feet on the ground and we will actually start construction? I know Ms. Breitenbach mentioned that the first connections to the grid are likely to be 2020. So, when can people honestly start working? When can we start seeing people work? And also, if you could just give us, in terms of the breakdown, you mentioned the Northern Cape about 59%, the Eastern Cape. If you could give us a breakdown in terms of the ages likely of people that are expected to might be employed or that you are looking at employing. So yeah, just those two issues: construction timeframes and the breakdown of the ages of people that could stand to get some jobs. Thank you.
Yes, so that's me. Okay.
Questions, points of clarity. Wendell from Reuters. The first is that I just want to get the correct figure for the how much megawatts this 27. I've got 2,942. Is that still the figure that you guys are? This is for the 27 projects that will now be agreed to. The second question relates to the IRP. Minister, you did indicate that that's also on the agenda in the next week or two. However, the draft IRP that was signed by Cabinet, that the former, your predecessor alluded to, can you confirm that nuclear remains an option in that IRP? I'd appreciate that. The third question relates to investor confidence. So, if I can direct the question to Karen, please. Has there been a knock in investor confidence in terms of what the World Bank had sort of hyped up as one of the world's best sort of renewable programs? This 2-year hiatus in signing agreements, what sort of impact has that had? The last question is a point of clarity. And then this relates to the need to sign the agreements, sort of get financial closure, otherwise the obligations to the banks and financial institutions might sort of fall away. There was some people had mentioned the cut-off date at the end of the month. Is that wrong? And then is there, with regards to Eskom, the budget talks about Eskom almost like a guaranteeing the payment of 200 billion. Is that not somehow factored in? It's so need to get the projects done, otherwise Eskom is going to absorb it. If you can just maybe help me a little bit with that, please. Thanks.
Hi, Marcia Klein for Bloomberg BNA. Has anyone been in touch with the preferred bidders, and do they still exist? And are, for example, some of them might have gone out of business in the 3 years that they've had to wait.
Thank you. Yes.
Melanie Gosling, freelancer. Can you tell me how many gigawatts is allocated for renewable energy? I think it was 10,000 at some stage. I don't know if that's correct. And then as a follow-up, what percentage of South Africa's energy to date comes from renewable energy? And with this new lot, how will that percentage change?
I think that's about it, Minister.
We will be signing on Tuesday. I've said it so many times. In terms of employment, we're targeting young people because they are the ones that bear the brunt of 26% unemployment in our country. On the issue of the IRP, I'm going to address this issue in due course, including this issue of nuclear that you are so interested on. Clearly, this project has affected, the delay of the project has affected investor confidence. The Vice President of the World Bank was here 2 weeks ago. The Vice President of the African Development Bank. Everybody is concerned about this matter. We met, including myself, Moody's, credit rating agencies, this past Monday. Over and above that, I think it's a good thing to do. Our people need energy. We require cleaner energy. We have our commitments in terms of the National Development Plan, our own commitments in terms of our international obligations. Our people deserve better, and this project, I believe, will assist us to reignite our economy and get those much-needed jobs for our people. I think the other issues, time frames, Karen can address them.
Thank you, Minister.
Sorry. Now they are there, preferred bidders. Karen will tell you, as we speak, there are talks with all the stakeholders leading up to the signing next week.
Thank you, Minister. Feet on the ground, obviously that is when things will happen and you will see real progress and real impact. I don't want to explain exactly all the projects and when they want to close, because if I say that, then somebody will go and play the rand. So I can't give that type of detailed information to you. However, there will be a few that will close immediately. So they will sign and they will run to close. The others have got a deadline of end of July to close, which means by the end of July, all of these projects must have closed. Otherwise, they are in breach of their contract. I think that they all understand that, and there wasn't any issues for them to get to do that. Remember, with the changes to the black economic and transformation issues, some of those people have to now go and get funding to participate. They were not in the projects in the beginning, but now suddenly they are, and we really need to be fair to them to be able to find the money, which they will find. But also allow them to look at the documents, make sure that they understand what they are getting themselves into, etc. And that is why we've given a little bit more time to close, if you compare to previous rounds. The exact number for what we are going to sign is 2,305 megawatts. So that's the exact number. I agree with Minister about the investor confidence. But you know, the one thing that I've seen over the years, if there is a clear political leadership, the private sector will always work with you and make sure you get a successful outcome. Yes, they were shocked. I'm not saying that. But in our engagement with them, we were always transparent. We were always clear as to what our problems are. And you have seen how the rand has strengthened over the last month or two, three. And the investors are as keen as always. Obviously, they're going to look at us and make sure that we do things properly now and that we will achieve what we say we will achieve. But if Minister is the leader, we will also engage with the market. So we will make sure that we have got engagement opportunities so that the market then understands the political direction and where things will be going. I think it's very important that we communicate. And we have seen it with this, I think they call it the CEO initiative. If you keep on talking and explaining and sharing information, it makes it very easy for people to understand and to believe in what you're trying to do. And I think that with what the Minister is doing will give that confidence and make sure that we go that way. I've spoken about the cut-off date of July, so there's no cut-off date end of the month. The 201 billion, I mean, that's something that people, because they do not understand how these projects work and how we've structured the projects, the programs. The only time that the government will have to pay 201 billion, and it will only be as of the date of signing, will be when we expropriate or we nationalize all of the projects that we are doing, which is in our control. And as far as I know, the government doesn't have a policy of nationalization or expropriation. That's the only time that we will have to pay that big number. What we do guarantee is that Eskom will pay. So in the event that Eskom doesn't pay, and this is a rolling commitment, and if you look at the budget document, you'll see it's a rolling commitment, a six-month rolling commitment. So we take an obligation of 6 months on the balance sheet of the government for in case Eskom doesn't pay. But what we did as a project team, we have got a government support framework agreement. So we did do a sort of a catch-all net to make sure in the event that Eskom doesn't pay, the government will stand in and keep the project whole. However, that is a loan to Eskom because of the certainty that the regulatory environment is giving. Eskom should never ever be out of pocket as far as our Section 34 program projects are concerned. And that is what the regulatory certainty gives the Treasury as well as us to go and ask for the support. So one, the nationalisation expropriation is in control of the government. They can take a decision whether they want. And I cannot think they're going to suddenly wake up one morning and nationalise all of the projects. I can't even think about that. So that's number one. Number two, what we are guaranteeing for Eskom is a loan. So if Eskom doesn't make that payment, government will make the payment to keep the program going. And then Eskom will have to repay the government because it's a loan. So I think you need to understand that too, so that we can get this thing about Eskom's balance sheet, etc., out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll take this one last round, but I think the panelists were quite extensive. I'm not sure whether there's still more questions. Pretoria?
Just one, Ms. Pumla from Radebe.
Okay, we'll take one.
Karen, could you perhaps just give us the average tariff per technology?
Thank you. I'll take also the last round here. Linda, I'll give you the first chance, and then Waddle.
Sorry, and my question about the percentage of power wasn't answered.
Thanks, Linda Ensor, Business Day. To what extent was it the new executive and board team at Eskom and a new public enterprises minister responsible or made possible the signature of these agreements? Because it's been the resistance of those two entities in the past that has stood in the way, hasn't it? I mean, yes, thank you. Just how did it come about?
Minister, mine is a question of clarity, please. So we've South Africa has made commitments to the Paris Climate Agreement. We want to bring down our carbon emissions. We want to be a green economy, but we've also got a lot of coal. Part of the IPP, and you mentioned it here, was the two coal things with Thabamets and them. That's a 40 billion rand plus minus thing, but that thing has been challenged consistently within court and all of that. So going forward, given our reserves and given the fact that we want to make more IPP, how do you see us balancing that kind of global commitments, but also move towards moving away from coal power stations globally? Thanks.
Thank you. I think that's about it, Minister. I think there's the one last one there.
Minister, any comment on potential round 5 at RITP?
That's all for today, Minister.
Resistance. These are all decisions of cabinet. My role is to execute what is our policy, what has been negotiated with all the private sector people. That's why I'm saying I don't want to look back what happened in the past. I'm chasing my 100th day in office. This is my 10th day today. So I'm ticking a box now. Not because I like ticking box, but I'm executing a government mandate, our people's mandate. Our people want jobs, want to bring down inequality, unemployment, and so on. And this project, I faithfully believe, brings us nearer to our goals of the NDP, our own international obligations. It's a right thing to do. Challenge round 5. We'll see as we go along what happens. And from the figures that Karen and the team have been showing me, I think it's a very exciting program. On the court challenge, I do know that there are some court challenges, but right now we're executing our program as government. Whoever wants to challenge them will meet them in court. We believe that there is no legal impediment right now that prevents us from proceeding. That's why we are proceeding.
Sorry, apologies. I was trying to find quickly the average of the different technologies. The only one that I can quickly find is the 86 cents per kilowatt hour for the portfolio of all of the projects. I think the day when we sign, we will give you the detail of every project. What I can say is that the range was from 58 cents or 56 cents to about something 89 or 87 cents. That was the range of the project. But I would like to give you the detail, and maybe I can try and get it after the session, or otherwise we can do it on Tuesday.
Can give some. For wind, it's 56 cents per kilowatt to 76. Solar PV, 77 to 87. And then there are exceptions of the Cruisevale 5 megawatt project and the small biomass, as well as 100 megawatts in Northern Cape. But we'll give you the figures.
Can I just answer the question about the percentage of renewables in the energy mix? I think it is, we need to think about, are we talking megawatts, in other words, capacity, or are we talking terawatt hours, which is energy? And those two have got different answers, which I will also be able to give you on Tuesday. But it is very important to make the difference between, are we talking capacity or are we talking energy?
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of the media briefing, and thank you to the colleagues for being here, and thanks to the Minister.